We are recording. All right, everyone. So we've got Troy Casey, certified health nut here to share about his book, Ripped at 50, A Journey to Self-Love. Troy, welcome aboard, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me back on, Rob. I appreciate you, and I love all the work you're doing in the world.
Thank you, brother. Right back at you, and wouldn't be here without you. So would love to hear about the book that has just been released. Would like to hear how it all came into fruition. Like, what was the purpose behind writing the book, and what kind of made you feel called to put this work together? Obviously, you've been putting a lot of videos out. You do a lot of great work, but what about the written portion that you felt called to do that?
Yeah, well, I always knew that I was going to write books, and it just took me a little bit longer than I thought. And so, Ripped at 50, A Journey to Self-Love is all my trials and tribulations. You know, I started out as a Versace model. I had digestive issues, and I realize now, 31 years later, that your curse is your gift. I have amassed some expertise on nutrition, taking care of my body, really just making me feel better. And of course, I was in front of the camera, so look and feel better. And that was my original driver. And then through a series of just life circumstances, I had a lot of success in the modeling industry. I was a 4-time Versace model. I worked with the original supermodels, Christy Turlington and Naomi Campbell and many others. And so I had a lot of success, and that industry is rife with drugs and alcohol and partying, really, in general. And I really got into the party lifestyle. And luckily, my friends started to tell me, it's like a conspiracy. They're like, look, Troy, you're wasting your potential. And after you hear that a few hundred times, I started to let that take up real estate in my mind. And I went to a couple AA meetings and started to sober up. But it was meditation that really helped me. And they teach that in step 11 in AA. And so I sat my first 10-day Vipassana meditation course, and that transformed my life. It revolutionized my life in such a big way, such a profound way. It was like tractor trailers full of just weight were just lifted off of me. And so I came back from that, and that really sealed the deal in my partying days. I wasn't interested. I was committed in being sober, and this gave me the ballast. This filled the hole, if you will, for doing something else. And so I practiced Vipassana meditation for about 6 years, religiously, 2 hours a day. I sat 11 of those 10-day courses in silence, and that changed. That changed everything. I mean, the scientists are now just catching up with neuroplasticity and what meditation and psychedelics can do. To rewire the brain, and that's exactly what happened to me. A few years later, I started working with Maori healers from New Zealand, indigenous shaman from New Zealand, very powerful spiritual healers. I had another awakening with them. I was practicing yoga at the time, and then somebody turned me on to an herbal company, and I've been taking herbs for many years, trying to regulate my own digestion. And the herbs in the Amazon, when I started to put these plants from the rainforest into my body, they woke me up to a higher level of consciousness as well. And these are all, legal herbs, cat's claw, liver purification herbs, antiviral, antibacterial, incredible herbs. The cure for cancer is down in the Amazon. They try and replicate the phytochemistry, isolate and standardize it, and then make them into drugs. But if you isolate and standardize it, what happens is that one phytochemical that was balanced in a plant is now turns deadly. They researched Croton lacheri, Sangre de Drago, to try and make that into an antiviral herpes drug. They spent $89 million on it. and they had to scrap all the research because that one phytochemical became deadly. But if you're taking it as a natural plant, like I have it right here, this is a natural plant, and it has all the cofactors in it. It has everything to balance it out and to make that deadly element balanced. For example, there's arsenic in apples, right? But there's also 10,000 other chemicals and phytonutrients in it. So I learned a lot on my journeys. And when I was in the Amazon, I started drinking ayahuasca when I was researching the plants with the Shipibo Indians. And the ayahuasca is a very powerful psychedelic brew. It penetrates the liver, the gallbladder, the intestines, but more importantly, the nervous system where we hold our beliefs. So I came out of the jungle. I had 3 very profound visions. They've been unfolding ever since. One of them was of my daughter. I was not in a relationship. I was not married. And the other one was an amalgamation of my on-camera career, my natural medicine studies, and at the time I was doing stand-up comedy in Los Angeles. And the 3 merged in to my head as one, and the certified health nut was born. And I came out of the jungle, and YouTube was a new reality. And I started putting up all this exotic footage. I was working in the Amazon at the time. And so I started putting up all this exotic footage. And so I gained notoriety, some notoriety from that. And so that was a big wake-up call. The biggest vision that I had, the third vision that I had when I went to the Amazon the first time, was that humanity makes it from the precipice of ecological disaster that we find ourselves. The rainforest is being cut down at an alarming rate. It's the lungs of the planet. Ocean acidification, plastic everywhere, burning fossil fuels, soil depletion, chemical surface runoff of pesticides and herbicides into the Mississippi, killing off the flora and the fauna and the shrimp market. A good friend of mine, they were all in fishing in the shrimp market in Louisiana, and they got displaced, probably 30 years ago, just because of all the commercial farming. So I saw our potential demise, and I saw what we were doing to the planet on a big level, working in the Amazon and being in the Amazon and being on ayahuasca. You kind of get the bigger picture. And so the third vision I saw was that humanity makes it. And then when I'm leaving the jungle, I'm seeing logging barges. I get into the city. There's mountains full of sawdust and 2x4s ready to go on other shipping barges up to Home Depot. And so I'm thinking, what are we doing here as a species? What are we doing on this planet? Especially when I was in the jungle. The Iraq War was going on at the time. Bush was in power. And I had all these feelings, I could just feel the earth. And I was like, what are we doing as a species? What are we doing to this planet? Like, what should we be doing? And so I came out of the jungle with these powerful visions, with this activation, and I started putting stuff up on the internet, and I started sharing the message of the Amazon, sharing the message of awakening, sharing the messages of holistic health. And let me tell you, some people cared, but most people didn't care. Most people simply just didn't give a shit. And it's not that they don't really care. It's that they don't have the capacity to care. They're too busy driving in traffic to jobs they hate, that are antithetical to life itself, working with oil companies, drug companies, et cetera, and people are miserable. People are stressed out. They're overweight, 70% obesity rates. Back then, it was 62%. Now it's 70, right? Obesity or overweight, the statistic is. These are alarming, situation. That's 62% to 70%. That's exponential growth in a very short amount of time. 70% is close to 100%. So if I don't do something, if I don't make an impact in the world, if I don't inspire change, if I don't change myself and my ways of being as a consumer, as as an American programmed by the industrial age school system, if I don't change, then we're headed for absolute disaster. Because obesity, look at the statistics for just being 15 pounds overweight. So heart disease, stroke, major risks. And also the cost of healthcare. What does that do to our tax structure, our economics? So I'm a big picture guy. And so I'm out there on the internet sharing these messages, posting stuff on the Amazon, and people care to a certain degree, but not to get enough popularity to really make an impact, really make a difference. It's like, how can I get the popularity of Kim Kardashian and start spreading life affirmative messages? So that's where my mind, is working. And so then I went through a series of trials and tribulations. I had black mold exposure. I started my family. My kids are now 12 and 9. I went through a divorce. I was brought to my knees with black exposure, my divorce, and a few other really hardcore life lessons. And so I was inspired. I was turning 50. I realized that six-pack abs was dominating YouTube, Mike Chang's channel, all doped up on steroids, but selling six-pack abs. And I realized, why are they so successful? What is it about six-pack abs? Six-pack abs represents, a sexy body. Everyone wants to get laid at the biochemical level. Nature's first law is self-preservation. So everyone wants to get laid at the biochemical level. So sex sells. I also was challenged by a few of my friends, Bobby Williams and a couple of my other friends. They were strong guys, muscle heads, and they challenged me. You got a good physique, Troy. Get healthy again. Get your body in shape. And so I was like, all right, good. And then so I started thinking in the terms of marketing, six-pack abs, also my age. And so I came up with Ripped at 50. And the stories in it are all about my journey through awakening, my journey to practice self-love for myself, as an alcoholic and a party animal in my younger days, and then learning all this information. And I realized that there are fundamental principles. There are, as in physics, they call them first principles. They're basics. In martial arts, they say replication of the basics over and over again creates mastery. Just simple stuff. And so I have the 9 pillars of health that apply to all human beings, whether they're healthy, sick, they are young or old, man, woman, or child. This is the owner's manual for the human being. And I use all my stories. It starts out with Tupac Shakur and Donatella Versace in Milan during the 96 shows, 2 months before Tupac died. And so it starts out with that, and it moves through the Amazon like a moving train and through all my trials and tribulations. So I wrote it as an entertainment piece. I consider myself an artist. I consider myself an entertainer. And, one of my biggest fears is boring people. So I designed it to activate people's consciousness, to really entertain them. Just the cover alone is complete eye candy. And it's got the divinity codes in it. So it's there to awaken you, whether you read it or not. So that's my story, Rob. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for sharing, man. And so I think the first question people are going to ask, is this book meant for someone who's 50 plus, or is this meant for anyone?
This book is targeted towards, originally when I did it, because I've studied a lot of marketing, my target market was the people that are 50, approaching 50. Look at the statistics on successful executives that are 45 years old, with heart disease, heart attacks. These things are common. And so the obesity statistics as well. And so when you look at that, the greatest impact are the executives that have all the money, the Ferraris, the mistresses, the homes, but they don't have their happiness. They don't have their health. They've got a beer gut and they don't drink beer, right? Their abdominal wall is blown out. They don't have any health whatsoever, because it's not really about being ripped. Being ripped at 50 is showing people what's possible as a human animal. It's not about becoming me. If you practice the fundamental principles in there, your health will compound and you will accelerate much faster. People have been contacting me on the internet for the longest time. What pill do you have? I've got cancer. Hey, that's a lifestyle issue. It may take you, 20, 30 years to get that situation going on in your body. It may take 40 days and 40 nights to reverse it. And there is no magic pill. People want the magic diet. They want the magic, exercise program. They want all this stuff, but they don't want to do the work. And so, so when you apply these principles, it is, these are fundamental principles, and they compound. So when you get good sleep, when you hydrate properly, when you figure out your dream, purpose, and legacy, that gives you a true north, a magnetic north. As a man, when you wake up, you know what you're doing. When you take time to develop these things, when you forgive in your relationships instead of carrying that burden with you, and everyone has either been harmed or perceived harm. And then connecting with nature in all of its facets, grounding into the earth, sunlight, optimizing your breathing mechanics, programming your mind, deprogramming your mind. How about that? The thoughts that you think, most of us replicate the same negative thoughts we thought yesterday. And so you really want to focus on as many of these tools as you can, and then your health will compound and you will become healthy at a much quicker rate, which is what most people want. If you're trying to outrun your bad diet in the gym and your stressful lifestyle, exercise is a stress. And so that may be counterproductive.
And that's what I found too. I mean, I always tell the example when I was living out in LA and I was working with this medical device company, we were doing trade shows all over the country, and we were traveling, taking flights, going Thursday to Sunday, going to Florida. We come back, work 5 days straight, do it all over again. And I was still lifting. And yeah, I was putting on muscle, but at one point I tore this muscle in my back because I was just trying to do too much and I wasn't listening to my body, and I wasn't taking a long-term approach, which is something that I really appreciate about you, is that you show that it's okay to take 2 weeks off from lifting if your body's telling you to. And that's a very important lesson that I had to learn the hard way. And the pain teacher was barging down my door telling me, like, dude, you're doing too much and I'm going to knock you out because you're not listening to all the signs. My elbow had been hurting a little bit before. My wrist was bothering me a little bit. My shoulder was a little iffy. And it wasn't until the muscle tear that I was finally like, all right, now I have to physically stop. So what I've really appreciated about watching you is that you publicly go on there like, hey, I'm taking a week off from working out. I'm taking 2 weeks off from working out. I'm listening to my body. I'm doing some working in, doing some Tai Chi. And so I think a big misconception we have about the fitness industry is the whole no pain, no gain, which in my opinion is just straight up bullshit. That doesn't work. And we have what you said, everyone's looking for the magic exercise, like, oh, I have to bench press, I have to deadlift, I have to squat. And those are great exercises when used appropriately. However, used too much or not used in the right proportions is going to wreak havoc on the body. And so when you're exercising, I know one thing Paul Chek says, the best exercise is one you're going to do. And one thing you're going to do regularly. So what does a typical workout look like for you? I know sometimes you do 20-minute workouts, sometimes you do 45, sometimes you're in there for an hour, sometimes you're riding your bike or just going for a walk. What is a Troy Casey exercise? Let's say you're working out for this week. What is this week going to look like for you for your movement? Let's not call it exercise. Let's call it your movement.
Well, I treat my movement like my nutrition, really, whatever I have available, my time available, the available of the food, of the quality of the food, or if I want to fast. For example, I didn't get to go to the gym this morning. There's a lot going on here. We're publishing the book and we've got meetings. And then I've got another podcast after this on the other side of Hollywood. I think I'm going to jump on my bike as soon as I get off the phone with you and ride like the wind as far as I can. And that will be my exercise. My methodology, and especially because I had to get my body in really good shape. I lost I did 17-day juice fast in 2007 to prepare myself for another ayahuasca expedition in the Amazon. And I lost too much muscle then. And then I had children and I got a little bit preoccupied with that, tired as an adult. And then I had black mold exposure. And so I lost a lot of muscle. If you scroll back to my YouTube videos, I was skinny. I still have a little bit of that skinniness. I'm working on the thickness right now. But I had to build my mechanics back. And the one thing I learned, Rob, was consistency. Move my body every day. And actually, if I'm lifting weights, that's what I do. About 20 minutes, 20 to 40 minutes of doing kind of those things. But I could warm up for a half an hour before that. I can ride my bike to the gym. After the gym, I can go for a walk. I live in a beach area, so I can walk all over the town. And that's huge exercise. In fact, walking is the best exercise that I recommend. And then I do mobility stuff. So I'm constantly stretching and doing mobility exercises. So basically, a body in motion stays in motion. So I keep moving. And then, I did tweak my shoulder, my teres underneath my armpit back there. And it goes up, it refers up into my neck and below my rib cage. I mean, it's pretty complicated, this stuff. And how I got that was because one week I was getting some pretty good pumps. And I've got two years consistently back in the gym now. And I was thinking, yeah, man, Arnold Schwarzenegger, IFBB Pro, man, here I come. I was like my little fantasy world. I was getting a little ahead of myself. And because of the black mold exposure, I was getting easy muscle pulls. I was getting weird neurological issues and arthritis that would shift from joint to joint. I'm about 99% covered, but if I don't watch my energy levels, my optimize my sleep, my nutrition, my digestion, all that stuff, sometimes I work, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a family man. Sometimes I do stay up late. Sometimes I do have to wake up early and I'm not getting the best sleep. So I tweaked my shoulder. And for the last month and a half, I've been laying low. And I even couldn't do Qigong because it was overstretching this thing and just gentle movements. So I had to watch it. So I had to learn how to do some other stuff. And then after about a month of not really working out so heavily and pumping the weights, I figured, well, the deadlift doesn't activate my shoulder. So let me get back to the deadlift. And I put 25-pound plates on a big deadlift bar. The bar is probably 100 pounds. Maybe it's 75. It's one of those trap bars, but it's a huge one. And so maybe I'm only doing, 150, maybe 130 pounds, but I'm working on my mechanics, right? I'm making sure my hinge is working good. My glutes are firing. I got some of those bands. So I'm getting the booty bands. So I'm getting my glutes to fire. So I'm going back to working on my mechanics. So injuries aren't a bad thing in my humble opinion, Rob, because they help you focus on the little muscles. I go back onto my, my cable pulls and really get into the mechanics of everything. I went back to walking. Walking's my favorite exercise. And because I'm on a bike and because I've got the kids' schedule, I don't always reach that. So I got back to some walking, some barefoot walking. So I don't think there is any real bad or good. You just keep moving. It's like the yin yang symbol, and you try and walk that razor's edge. You stay as balanced as possible. So next time I start getting some musculature and start getting some pumps, I'm going to be like, aha, okay, maybe it's time to slow down, right? Take it for whatever it's worth. Make sure your mechanics are very strong. Slow down. Take the pump. Don't expect to be Arnold Schwarzenegger in his 20s, right? And call it a day, right? Instead of getting a little ahead of myself, because it's the longevity that I'm looking for.
And that's the important part. It's the dance and finding that balance. And I think that's exactly what you said, the yin and the yang. And you look at the yin yang single, it is a dance. it's swirling into each other. And that's what it's a constant dance. And that's what I think many of us find out the hard way, is that you can't be Yang, you can't be trying to be Arnold Schwarzenegger all the time, because it just doesn't work. And they don't, and people like Arnold Schwarzenegger don't show that side of things.
Everything.
It's crazy. We got to find that balance. And I think that that's an important distinction for people to hear, is that it's okay to take time off. It's okay to just go for a walk, and that's your exercise for the day. There's nothing wrong with that. And so with that being said, I know that we're running out of time here. What would you say is a take-home message? Someone is interested in buying your book. They want to give it a read. What would you say is the take-home message that they can expect to go from that? And obviously everyone's going to have a different take-home message, but if someone reads your book, what is the hope that you hope someone takes away from it?
My hope is that they understand and they treat their body as a temple. My understanding is this is the temple of God. The divinity codes are inside of us. We are powerful co-creators. When you purify the body and purify the mind, we understand that vibration affects matter, thought affects matter. Everything in the world, in the physical world that is not nature, was created out of the idea of a man. The Wright brothers wanted to fly like an eagle. When you tune yourself up and you recognize your own divinity, you recognize the power of God inside of you, then we can create a world of beauty, and we can live more in balance and in harmony. The through line of this book is the natural law of correspondence. There's 7 immutable laws. The natural law of correspondence states, as above, so below. How do we expect the world to be healthy if we are not healthy ourselves? Many people I talk to, I say, we need to get off oil, and the petrodollar is keeping oil in place. So oil and money get to evolve, right? And most people know that is a major problem, yet they speak into existence, that'll never happen in my lifetime. Well, as far as I can see, it needs to happen. It needs to happen pretty much overnight. And so once we're only conscious to the degree we're healthy, and we're only healthy to the degree we're conscious. So once we get ourselves healthy, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, those are the 4 bodies we have in the 3rd dimension. Once we get ourselves healthy, then we can start making decisions that are for the betterment of the all. And not that our innovation in the past has taken us to where we're at now, and there is no bad or good. Or in the Vedic scriptures, they like to call it the big cosmic joke. This is just God unfolding as God. Is one of my working philosophies. And I don't want to get too philosophical on you. This book will help you get healthy. It'll help you, inspire you. And it'll also, this isn't about my little perfect physique and then I'm gifted and genetically gifted. I go through hell. This book is a moving train walking you through. The human condition is real. That's the other thing I want people to understand. Yet, if you align yourself with nature, you pay attention to some basic fundamental pillars of health, then you can live a life pain-free, stress-free, with love and joy in your heart.
Beautiful, man. I'm excited to read it. I'm sure everyone listening to this is excited to read it. Where can people find this?
You can get it at my website, #rippedit50book.com. I think if you go to my troycasey.com and certifiedhealthnut.com, all roads lead to that. My Instagram is very live. My YouTubes are live. They all have links on there. And so you can find it all over the internet.
Beautiful, my friend. Well, thank you for hopping on here today. I'm excited to read it myself. Enjoy the rest of your day in sunny California. We'll talk very soon.
God bless you, Rob.
All right, Troy. Have a great day.